Hi guys, so my group decided to do our capstone on speeding while driving. So, as far as our topic of interest, it was speeding while driving. The operational definition that we had come up with was going 5 or more over the posted speed limit while operating a vehicle. So, anything 5 or more over the speed limit posted would be considered speeding for our research. Speeding is an important topic to discuss due to the high risk driving that is presented daily. We always hear and see on the news that traffic accidents mostly involve people who are speeding, and speeding is the second most common cause of road accidents in the United States. Prior research done was focused on speeding and using the application of TPB, the theory of planned behavior, and the use of behavioral change models. Articles had speeding in common, but there were quite a few differences, including some articles mentioning drinking while driving and speeding, while others focused solely on speeding. Prior research shows that the biggest correlation was between attitude and intention towards speeding while driving, and all prior research that we looked at had at least 100 participants involved. The reasoned action approach, or the theory of planned behavior, is used to analyze speeding to determine an individual's attitude, intention, and PCB, as well as normative pressure regarding speeding. Once this information is known, we are able to then lessen the behavior of speeding, which in turn would lessen the amount of accidents occurring on a daily basis. The key to the behavioral model is intent, how an individual goes about the intention of speeding while driving. And the reasoned action approach, or theory of planned behavior, is composed of attitudes, behavioral intention, and perceived behavioral control. And in some models, they discuss subjective norms, but not for this study. Why do we use this model? Well, this helps researchers create interventions for one specific behavior rather than a larger group of behaviors. So, in this situation, speeding is one small behavior, whereas a general larger behavior would be traffic accidents. The purpose of the research was to find the relation of intention, perceived behavioral control, attitude, and normative pressure on an individual speeding. So, how intention plays into the speeding, as well as an individual's attitude, and how people expect you to act as far as driving goes outside of your personal beliefs. Using this theory helped researchers to figure out whether attitude, subjective norms, and perceived behavioral control play a significant role in an individual's decision to speed. So, for our study, we had 171 participants who fully completed the survey via Qualtrics, which, when I say fully completed, I mean individuals who answered every question from beginning to end, as well as the demographic questions. So our participant ages, we had quite a huge variety. There were participants between the ages of 18 and 84 years of age. We had mostly females participate for this study. There were 137 females, sorry, while there were only 33 males. Sorry. The majority of participants were Caucasian, so there were 144 Caucasian individuals, while the others were quite a variety between 1 and 8% of different races. As far as our means go, for attitude, we had a mean of 4.27. For perceived behavioral control, we had a mean of 5.62. For intention, we had a mean of 4.65, and for normative pressure, 4.35. And our standard deviations, as you can see in the slide, is for attitude 1.62, for perceived behavioral control was 0.95, intention was 1.95, and normative pressure was 1.39. So for our measures, we used a questionnaire that involved a 7-point Likert scale. The items included attitude towards speeding, perceived normative pressure, perceived behavioral control, and behavioral intention. There were demographics that also were answered so that we can get an idea of what our population of this study that we're working with. Responses varied from no control to complete control, very likely to very unlikely, not possible to very possible, and etc. These questions on the questionnaire were randomized by Qualtrics, so things were mixed up. It wasn't all of the attitude questions in one section and then PBC questions in another section. It was completely all over the place. So for our procedure, we had a hyperlink that was used by participants to reach the survey. There was an informed consent at the very beginning and demographics at the very end. There was a description of speeding, so what we discussed about the operational definition of going 5 or more over the speed limit. We also had these survey questions in randomized order on the different variables, so PBC, intention, attitude, normative pressure. Informed, we let them know that speeding was the most common cause for traffic-related fatality. The definition of speeding was also set for the purpose of the study. Now, our definition does not meet everyone's definition. Obviously, speeding varies based on the posted speed limit, but for our purposes, we declared speeding as 5 or more over that posted speed limit. Participants were instructed to answer the questions to the best of their ability, reading very closely, but not second guessing themselves. So not taking the time to question their answer to that question, as that would have an impact on our study. Consent was given at the very beginning of the survey. We made sure that they were 18 years of age or older, and that they consented to having their data used for this study. They were debriefed on the purpose of the study, which is to figure out how intention plays a role in speeding while driving, as well as how we can minimize traffic-related accidents by using the theory of planned behavior. So this table shows all of our mean, median, standard deviations, our minimum and maximum, which is basically the first answer to the last possible choice, the skewness that is here. And as you can see, the means for the attitude was 4.27. The PBC mean was 5.62. The intention was 4.65, and normative pressure was 4.35. And another important thing to look at here is the standard deviation. So the standard deviation for attitude was 1.62. The standard deviation for PBC was 0.955. The standard deviation for intention was 1.95, and the standard deviation for for normative pressure was 1.39. The minimum and maximum doesn't tell us much here. It just shows that the minimum would be not likely at all, while the maximum would be completely likely or very likely. Pardon my language. And then the skewness you can see here is what our graph would look like based on the results here. And this table just shows the descriptive statistics and the bivariate correlations that are coming up. For our results, our preliminary analyses, upon initial inspection, mean attitude and normative pressure were both moderately favorable towards regularly engaging in driving less than 5 miles over the speed limit, as you saw in Table 1. Mean, PBC, and intention were more favorable towards regularly engaging in driving less than 5 miles over the speed limit. Attitude was strongly correlated with intention and normative pressure. PBC had a weaker correlation between intention and normative pressure, and attitude had the strongest correlation between intention and normative pressure. So as you can see, our correlation results, there was a strong correlation between intention and attitude, which was at 0.89. There was a weak correlation between all other variables. The correlation between attitude and normative pressure was 0.72. The correlation between PBC and normative pressure was 0.70. Normative pressure and intention were the most strongly correlated in the study, and PBC and normative pressure have the lowest impact on attitude towards speeding. All correlations were statistically significant, however, some were stronger than others, as you can see on this slide. As far as our primary analyses go, a multiple regressions analysis was conducted. In support of the hypothesis, attitude, PBC, and normative pressure all significantly predicted intention to drive more than 5 miles per hour over the speed limit. A lower p-value indicates that the null hypothesis can be rejected in our situation. All variables had a meaningful addition to the model because changes in the predictor's value is related to the changes in the response variable. For our study, our R squared is 0.81, which indicates that 81% or 90%, if you're looking at R, of the changes in data can be accounted for by the means of the data, which is a pretty high number considering most of that data is accounted for. Any of the changes that are happening are accounted for within the means. So table 2 here shows our correlation results. So you can see attitude and PBC had a correlation of 0.52, attitude and intention had a correlation of 0.89, attitude and normative pressure had a correlation of 0.72, PBC and let's see, and intention had a correlation value of 0.54. And then you can kind of read the rest of it, but PBC and normative pressure was 0.41, and intention and normative pressure was 0.70, all which had significance, as we were looking for a p-value of less than 0.001. So our hypothesis was attitude, PBC, and normative pressure all significantly predicted intention to drive less than 5 miles per hour over the speed limit, P being less than 0.05. We were able to reject the null hypothesis. The hypothesis presented in the study was and is correct up to this moment. Mean, PBC, and intention were more favorable towards regularly engaging in driving less than 5 miles over the speed limit. And attitude was strongly correlated with intention and normative pressure, as you saw in table 2. PBC had a weaker correlation between intention and normative pressure. Attitude had the strongest correlation between intention and normative pressure. And in connection to prior research, attitude and intention towards speeding had one of the strongest correlations. So some limitations of this study was the lack of diverse ethnic groups, which makes it hard to generalize results to all ethnicities, considering most of our participants were Caucasian in this study. 171 participants makes it hard to generalize results considering our population is so massive. So we could generalize results to Caucasian individuals, because there were so many participants of this 171 who were Caucasian, but the other races, which were between 1% and 8%, we couldn't really generalize the study to them, considering we had the lack of the diversity. Most of the participants were female, so it would be hard to generalize results to the males as well in the population, as well as other non-specified genders. The study focused on 5 miles per hour, whereas other speeds and other operational definitions could change our results for the study, since ours was just based on 5 or more over the speed limit. The strengths of the study include the diversity in ages, since we had multiple ages ranging between 18 and 87 with a mean of about 36 years old. The data showed the effectiveness of using the TPB model. Future research should have a larger sample size, as we could generalize results a bit better. We need more variety in ethnicities. We need equal amount of male to female participants. We could add more survey questions regarding the theory of planned behavior, and we could possibly look at speeding in other countries rather than just the United States, which is what our study focused on. And here are my references.